I learned the tough lesson of vulnerability through my brother's death. So uh, in my program, I talk a lot about becoming unsilent. For people, my brother didn't die of a drug overdose. I found him from a drug overdose, but that's not what killed him. What killed him was his silence.
Mm.
Like, let that set in. Silence kills people. My brother got his MBA from Georgetown University, top of his class, University of Texas Business School. Brilliant guy, performing perfectly in public, perishing in private, and his silence killed him. And what I learned from his death, from finding my brother, he'd been deceased for 3 days, alone, isolated in a room in Beverly Hills, is vulnerability. Is what I learned from that experience. Is like I have to share what's going on because he didn't share what had happened in his life.
Yeah.
And it killed. The silence killed him.
The rush out to spectacle, a journey outward, a path inward.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Rush Outrospective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. There comes a point in someone's life when getting back up becomes part of who they are. John Mabry had already survived the wreck that took his leg and the life of his friend. He rebuilt. He found his way to Hollywood. He endured the loss of his brother to an overdose. He fought his own battles with addiction, went through treatment, found sobriety, and eventually became someone helping others find their way through recovery. And then he fell again. At one of the darkest moments of his life, after everything he had already survived and rebuilt, John finally said, "I don't have another one in me." His friend didn't ask him for another comeback. He asked him to take one step. And maybe that's where John's story becomes about something bigger than resilience. Because eventually, life takes things from us that no comeback can return. The question becomes, how do we become whole anyway? That's what interests me about John Mabry. Not simply how he survived, not how many times he rebuilt, but what those experiences taught him about faith, identity, connection, surrender, and the difference between rebuilding a life and actually healing one. And this is my conversation with the dynamic speaker, John Mabry.
Thank you so much.
John, I read, when I was going through your journey and going through this, I was trying to find the right words to express, all the valleys and the highs and the lows. When I read this cold opening, what thoughts and feelings and emotion went through your mind?
I'm humbled. Honestly, I'm humbled to be here today, in front of you. Thank you for putting this together for your show. I'm honored to get to be here. I don't feel like I've earned the right to. I don't deserve what God has given me, but I'm grateful to show up. And I'm nervous. I'm nervous. I do this frequently, and to be honest with you, I'm a little nervous of what's going to come out because. But God didn't ask us to be perfect. He just asked us to show up. And so thank you for giving me the opportunity to show up today. And
amen to that, brother, because it's true, man. Like showing up is being present is half the battle Christ wants us to be at, right? He wants to say, show up, be present, just show up. That's all you got to do. And I'll work the magic around your life. I will reconfigure things in such a supernatural way that you'll be like it'll be unrecognizable to be between the earthly beings in our world, So to have you here, I would say is a tremendous honor. And I always say that part of hosting a podcast is a form of my own rehabilitation because I get to sit down with people who have walked the walk, who don't just talk the talk, but walk the walk and really take in their story, their information. If you ever see me doing this in the podcast and you see my hand going like this, I'm taking that and putting it as a treasure next to my heart, and I'm going to own it for the rest of the day, week, month, year, and we'll see how long it lasts because there's always so many dynamic things that I get to be experienced in this and being part of this conversation with you. So it's an honor to have you here, and I think God, nothing happens by accident. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We both share an amazing friend, Dr. Dave Hausman, and he lives in Tennessee, and you live in Tennessee, is that right?
Yeah, so I was one of the first guys he met after his amputation last year.
Yeah.
So we met, we had the same leg dealer, and I went in, I heard about him through a friend, because amputee community is kind of small.
Yeah.
So I heard about him through a friend, and then I saw him in my office. I was like, oh, that's the guy, that's the new guy.
Yeah.
So I just went up, shook his hand, next thing you know, we're, great friends. And
yeah, and I think just the way, the the world brings people together to do that. You know, Dr. Dave, him and I met in a adaptive training foundation that deals with people that are dealing with limb loss or some kind of physical disability and issues, and they like to push you over the edge and say, "Hey, start flying," you know.
Yep.
And even if you don't have any arms, you're gonna start flying, you know. Like, and it was a beautiful experience to share that with him. I learned so much about him, just as a man and his journey, and hearing his testimony and in our podcast. And I know if they say, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and I get that feeling from you too. So I want you to know that.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Honored to be here.
Absolutely. You know, there's, as I was reading the cold opening, I wanted to say that there's an interesting difference between getting your life moving again and actually healing from what stopped it in the first place. John, looking back, Hollywood seems to have represented a moment in life when life was moving again, and by your own account, you felt like you had arrived. Could you explain that to me a little bit?
I've had a lot of experiences where I've had a lot of external success, where I was performing perfectly in public and then perishing in private. And LA was it's like magnification of that, performing perfectly in public and perishing in private. And so I'd lost my leg in a car accident here in Texas in March of 2000. Tire blew out in a friend's car. We rolled 8 to 10 times. Killed a friend of mine. Ashley Furman was her name. She passed away March 11, 2000. I ended up having my leg amputated after 14 procedures in a year, and then graduated from Baylor University 6 weeks later on a temporary prosthetic. And it was all to show everybody I'm going to go show everybody I got this. And so next thing you know, I'm in LA doing, I got my master's in counseling at San Diego State, stumbled into some acting stunt work in LA using my prosthetic leg, got my foot in the door in the industry. And next thing you know, I'm in major Hollywood productions like NCIS and ER and the movie Superbad. And so performing perfectly in public and perishing in private. And I, here, repeat the question for me, please.
Yeah. Well, the question was just about what did it mean that you had arrived, that you felt like you had arrived? But there's more to the question. It's like, I guess the real question is, when did you begin to understand that rebuilding a life and healing a life weren't necessarily the same thing?
Man, yeah. So rebuilding was the easy part. I've rebuilt a bunch of times, but healing, that takes effort, consistent effort. And if you've gone through the trauma I have of losing my leg, lost a friend, I mean, I chose to amputate my leg. I found my brother dead from an overdose. He had been deceased for 3 days in his Beverly Hills home. Lost marriage, access to my kids for quite some time, all the things. And rebuilding I found to be easy. But healing is very personal, and I've found you've got to block out the crap from the world. Like I've had to really downsize my life and quiet my mind, going into rehab centers, going into support groups. And really the healing part is done in rooms like this. Like I have had more healing in church rooms with my men's support groups, of crying with other men and doing 12-step work in a group of men in a church basement, 2 hours on a Monday night from 7 to 9 p.m. and sharing my honest, vulnerable parts of me with other men. That's where healing is like, that's where the work is, not in the rebuilding what everybody else sees. And I love to say, like, if you go to my socials, you'll see I had this really full life on social media.
Yeah.
But people have no idea how full my life is behind the scenes. Like, you have no idea how full my life is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah.
And it's been because I've been willing to take time to myself to heal me first, and to do it for myself first and foremost. I always tried to heal for somebody else, or I always tried to get better externally for somebody else, but I wasn't willing to do real internal work on a consistent basis. And even though I failed and messed up, I was willing to keep coming back. So
yeah, was there a moment when it actually it clicked with you? Say, look, what it say is more of the same. Like this. I need to get to another. I call it the evolutionary zone of being. You're like, okay, man. Like I'm still swimming ashore.
Yes, it was about 6 years ago. I lost my house, my wife, and my kids. COVID hit, and I was living alone, and I was not doing very well. And I was to tell a story of my friend coming over. So a friend of mine's a member of SEAL Team 6, and that's when well, right before that, my 12-year-old son caught me drinking, and it's shameful to say it. I don't like saying it publicly, but that's my truth. And I was caught drinking when the court was on top. I already had court restrictions, being drug tested every week, breathalyzed within an hour of seeing my children. I had to breathalyze into a camera that would take a picture of me with my blood alcohol content and email it to the people who needed to know. So I had all these restrictions on me, and I still messed up. And my 12-year-old called me out on it, and his mom had to come pick him up. And so to see my 12-year-old look back at me and see what a loser I was, like, my dad can't, I have to protect my little siblings because my dad can't even be a dad. I have to be dad. And he called me out. And so then that's when I called my friend over, member of SEAL Team 6. He's in my living room, and he goes, I took bin Laden's watch off of his dead wrist when we shot him. I've seen death in the face. I laid on top of bin Laden as our helicopter took off out of the compound. He goes, you're not far off. He goes, I see it in your eyes. You're not far off. And he goes, you're going to make me show up at your funeral and tell your kids what a great dad you could have been. That's pretty selfish of you, isn't it? I was like, oh, man.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
Yeah. And that's when he was like, dude, everybody loves a comeback story. And I was like, I don't know if I have another one in me, man.
Yeah.
If I have another one in me. And he goes, let's start with one thing today. What's one thing you can do today? I was like, dude, I don't even know where to start. I've hosted a podcast on addictions. I've spoken on addiction panels. I've done all this stuff. And now I'm back down here at the lowest I've ever been. And he goes, can you start with a shower today? Think you take a shower today? Can you start with that? I was like, he was a Navy SEAL, SEAL Team 6, telling me, can you take a shower? Or asking. And I was like, don't leave until I do, because I don't know if I can do it. So he waited around. I took a shower. I was like, all right. He goes, all right, now let's get started. Now it's time to start your comeback story.
Wow. That is sick. That is so sick, man. Like, I mean, it's those small and incremental steps, isn't it? Like,
So that was a realization of like, I came to an end of myself of like everything else I've tried externally is not working. And it was like, I went back to church. I was like, what is not working? And I went to Celebrate Recovery. Celebrate Recovery is a Christ-centered 12-step group at churches across the country. It's free. And that's my evolution began when I came back to Christ, where I was brought up in the church. My grandpa went to school with Billy Graham. He and Billy Graham went to Bible college together. So my grandpa was a kind of famous preacher. He and Billy Graham were friends throughout their entire careers. I grew up in the church, baptized by my grandpa in his church at age 11. And but I didn't have a relationship. And so it was when I came to the end of myself in those moments that I came back to Celebrate Recovery and started working the 12 steps with Christ as the center.
Yeah.
And that was when things started to change.
Dude, that's like, I mean, a lot of you, I mean, it's so insane, you hear people say, just take the next right move, just make the next right move, right? Like, and you're like, what does that mean? And then, well, when you do it, you actually know, like, that's the next right move, right? Like, it's like, it's like, it did that one thing. And it kind of, when you were talking about like, just, do you take a shower? Like, that is so small. And it reminds me it kind of took me back to where my wife was, she was in ICU with COVID. They were going to intubate her. And I just told her, please just do me one favor. Cause they were saying, you don't move. You're not going to get up. You're going to stay in bed. I said, just do me one favor. Just get up out of the bed and just touch the floor with your feet. Yeah. That was it. And I said, because I said, just want you to just touch the floor with your feet. That's all I care about. Because they're telling you, you're gone. We're going to put you in a coma for a while, Yeah. And I said, you got to just do this for me, please. Because I wanted her to feel like just that one next move, just that simple move of touching the floor, taking a shower, and having that feeling of you again.
Yeah, just a symptom of accomplishment. I'm in my body. I can feel something, and I'm doing something small. I'm doing something. It doesn't have to be big, but it's something in the right direction.
Yeah, that's so cool, man. One of the things I thought about is that, like, how much is this resilience is in his story, and of course there's lather a lot. You're lathered with resilience, and God's made you a resilient man, and all this stuff. But resilience usually is usually talked about as an unquestioned value, right? Get back up, keep moving. Don't let what happened to you define you. But sometimes I wonder whether movement can serve more than one purpose. Um, how have you learned to recognize the difference between moving forward and moving away from something?
I would say when I came to the end of myself and was willing to start rebuilding my relationship with Christ, when I started moving toward that, the other things that I didn't need started to fall away. It wasn't like I needed to remove things from my life. It's like I needed to add the one thing. It's like add the one thing that's a relationship with Christ. If you add that, the other things start to fall away. It's like the magic of recovery. It's when you go into recovery rooms and you share your stuff. It's like I don't need to necessarily stop doing things. I need to start doing the one thing, and that's seeking a relationship with Christ first.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. How did you you moving away from things? How much of that was like a hill that you had to climb, or had to get over? How much did that play a role?
Say that again.
Like how much that moving away from things, we have an inner self, right? And we have a habit self, and the habit self has these ideals and, I'm going to eat this cake, whatever, like I'm going to, it's more, a self-glorifying and especially in your story, you're in Hollywood, you've done these things and you have this, this super story where there's a lot of ego and those kind of things. How did you, when those things that you had to move away from, how did you battle those? What was the thing you had to do?
I would say surrounding myself with men of Christ and accountability, because my mind wants to immediately go to the quick fix. My mind wants to go to my old habits. My mind wants I want to do this, but instead I pick up a phone call. Even this week I've made a couple of phone calls going, hey, is this the right? I had this idea. What do you think? Running it by guys in my group. Guys that can help me see things outside of myself that I don't see.
Yeah.
So I would say surrounding myself with other men, and having regular conversations with other men, being vulnerable and going, hey, this is where I'm at today.
Yeah.
And so it helps me move away from things that I would normally want to be drawn to. And to be honest with it, be honest with, I got an ice cream addiction. I got an ice cream issue. I might need to find an accountability partner for that. But, so yeah, that's what I would say is surround yourself with.
It's so true too, man. And that's the essence of the Rush Out perspective, right? It's like, it's saying, look, I've done all the personal inventories. This is what this show essence is about. It's like, I've done all the personal inventories. I've done all the 12-step programs. I've done the introspection. I've done the, list of character defects, the defects of character. I've done all that work, right? And then I still find myself in the same exact place, right? It's like I still have I have a personal problem with me, still, you know what I mean? Now I've developed this personal problem with me, right? And I think when I hear you talk about like you reach out for your friends, you reach out to your support group, the people that you're in your community, and you put the idea out there. It's like, it's about individual and collective values and how you can find and listening to people who listen to their stories. And in that process, you can see how you can live maybe a different way and maybe define yourself.
Man, one of the greatest things, this just happened 3 days ago. I had a great idea. This is a great idea for my career. This is what I need to be doing. I call my strategist. I've got, coaches in different areas of my life. I call my strategist and I leave him this voicemail. I was like, and he called me back. He left me a voicemail. He goes, man, I love the passion in your voice. But here's what I think. This is what we need to do strategically. And after I left the voicemail, I heard myself say it out loud, and I knew it was a bad idea. Like I knew it wasn't the right idea. I knew it's maybe a great idea later, but not right now.
Yeah.
But just when you say it out loud, you hear yourself tell somebody. It's like I get to hear myself say it out loud, even if it's a crazy idea. But I have safe people that I go to get my crazy ideas out, and then they can help me sort through. Hey, that's actually it. Sometimes it's good to be delusional. It's good to have delusional thoughts. You go, I'm not gonna let this stop me. And there's other times where I'm like, no, I'm delusional. That's not a good idea.
Yeah.
But saying it out loud, you get to hear yourself say it, and then somebody else gets to give you some feedback and mirror back what they heard.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. A long life gives most of us identities, right? In your case, some of those transitions have been much more dynamic than most. Survivor, actor, brother in grief, patient. recovery advocate, speaker, coach. There have been a lot of different versions, right, of John Mabry. Do you see those chapters as a series of reinventions or a gradual discovery of who you actually are?
It's probably more. Man, these are good questions.
Thank you.
It's probably more of a gradual becoming who God already made me to be.
Mm.
And it's kind of like the what's the Michelangelo statue? It's like the block of stone was there. Michelangelo was already there. You just have to chisel what's not Michelangelo. Or is it Michelangelo? What's the statue? You basically chisel away the
Yeah.
piece of art that's already there.
Yeah.
Like it's a big block of stone, but the art's there. You just got to chisel away what's not a
Yeah.
part of it. So I think that's been that would probably be my journey as opposed to reinventing myself. It's like, no, I need to keep going to who God's already called me to be, and chip away the parts that aren't what He meant for me.
Man, that's powerful, man. That is so powerful. I had a guy who had spent 15 years incarcerated. He's a Marine, and he injured himself, and then he got medically discharged, and he got discharged, and he wanted to be a Marine, a career Marine, and then he injured himself, and they discharged him, and then he went to this bar, got drunk, killed somebody in the bar, and then he was supposed to do a 30-year sentence in 15 years. He spent 15 years, and he says, one of the things he says that's so powerful, he said, I had the privilege of being incarcerated for 15 years. I had the privilege, and God gave me the privilege of going through this extreme turmoil. And he said it was in prison where he has this book called this thing called Weekday Remedies. His name's David Gathers. David Gathers, if you're watching, what's up, brother? Yeah, but he talks about, he says, this is where I wrote my book, and I share that story with you. How much of that kind of aligns with you, intersects with your life, that kind of idea?
Absolutely, man. It's like when I'm being squeezed the most is when the most growth happens. And I've learned to better welcome the resistance, like welcome the pressure, because the pressure is where the magic happens. It's like when I'm comfortable, I'm not growing. But, it's like a diamond grows under pressure. A pearl grows because it's got, a foreign object inside of it, or inside the oyster. That's how the pearl forms, is a foreign object going in, and it starts to coat itself over and over and over again to create the pearl. And so now just in the last 2.5 years, I've been on crutches, in a wheelchair, and a boot for over a year of the last 2.5 years. But with a near second leg amputation, I had an ingrown hair a little over 2 years ago. Just buried my mom. Fly back to Nashville, and they almost cut my leg off above the knee. And then I've had 2 ankle surgeries last year. And literally a year ago right now, I was in a boot on crutches for 9 weeks on a prosthetic leg. And when these kinds of things happen, I'm like, at this point, I'm like, bring it, Satan. Like, I know you're trying to take me down, and I'm not letting you. Like, you've taken me down before. I'm not giving up anymore. And so, but it draws me closer to God. It draws me going, Lord, I can't get through this on my own. I can't get this on my own. Making extra phone calls, going to extra support group meetings. Like, what do I need to do to get through this tough thing? But now when the tough stuff happens, I'm like, bring it, bring it. But I don't do it alone. Again, I don't say bring it and just decide to go through it alone. Bring it, make some phone calls, bring it, go to support group meeting, bring it, schedule lunch with a friend.
Yeah.
So
that's so cool that you're able to tap into that. Let me ask you this: how much of you losing your leg has been a blessing? In what ways has it been a blessing?
That's been great. It's so great. I had dinner with a friend last night, with 2 friends last night. One's a new amputee, and it was like I get a really unique opportunity to connect with people very quickly and very deeply because of my prosthetic leg. Because when I'm wearing shorts and I'm out in public, people see it. And it's an outward representation of, not everybody knows what it's like to lose a limb, but everybody knows what it's like to have an amputated spirit or to have lost something that they didn't want to lose, to have something severed, relationship, a job, a career that didn't work out, whatever. And so immediately people have a connection of like, that guy's been vulnerable before, that guy's been through some stuff. And the conversations I get to have with people are so amazing. I've met some of the most amazing people. I got to, also because of my prosthetic leg, if this didn't happen to me, it's possible Hunter Woodhall, who won a gold medal in the Paralympics last year, would not have gotten a gold medal in the Paralympics. I invented a sock that manages sweat inside prosthetics years ago, and nobody's figured out sweat management inside prosthetics. For 3,000 years, the first Egyptian toe was made 3,000 years ago. Egyptians could build the pyramids perfectly aligned with the stars, true north, all the things that they did, they couldn't figure out sweat inside a prosthetic. I did. So within a year, I had worldwide distribution on the greatest sock ever created for amputees, and it helped. Hunter Woodhall was wearing them crossing the finish line last year, his double leg amputations. He's crossing the finish line in the Paralympics wearing the socks that I invented. So, yeah. And I was the first amputee on the first TV show about the war in Iraq. So when the war in Iraq happened, the first TV show that came out was called Over There on FX. I was the body double for the lead actor in the first. So I was the first stump double of the first wounded soldier about the war in Iraq. So it's opened up some pretty cool doors, man. Sometimes the toughest things I have in their life are actually the greatest.
Yeah, man. That's why I asked you that question, because I was like, we can talk about the pitfalls of that. We can talk about, how what the blessings are with that. Like my buddy Davey Gathers, it's like, he sees it as a blessing. Now he goes to all the prisons and talks about, he's an advocate for, prison reform, and he does all these magnificent things with the thing he had to endure, and for you, that's what I wanted to know. It's like, what was the most impactful? Well, that's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That Olympic gold medal?
Paralympic gold medal. Yeah, Hunter, he broke a world record again this past year. Broke his own world record, so it's still pushing limits, man.
That's
pretty cool to be a part of that.
Tell me about your friend that's here. You said he's, I know you have a friend with you that's getting ready to, could you just go articulate with that?
Yeah, so one of the greatest things about being, so this is the hardest fraternity to get into. I'll tell you that. I pledged fraternity in college. It's, can be a challenge. But becoming an amputee, part of the amputee community, you literally have to cut a limb off. You literally have to have a limb severed off and suffer for the rest of your life. And I'll tell you, I talk about all the great things and the cool stuff that amputees do. It just sucks. Yeah. Like the reality is, living like this sucks, and it's not talked about enough. It's a grind, dude. The chronic pain, the uncomfortable fitting, the prosthesis doesn't fit as often as you would like. Parts break all the time. Insurance. I mean, the greatest barrier is insurance. If you need a new leg, they're gonna put every barrier possible for you to not get a new leg. They don't want to pay for it. And so you have to jump through all these hoops. You have to suffer enough and document your suffering enough with your practitioner before they'll even consider maybe giving you a new part or a new leg. Like it's not cool. But all that to say is we are a very tight-knit community. So when somebody new comes to the Nub Club, when somebody new comes in, you drop everything and you go help them, because that's what people did for me. And so my buddy Roadside Ricky lost his leg a little over a year ago, changing a tire on the side of a road. He was already named Roadside Ricky.
What?
Foreshadow. He changed tires for a living. He changed tires on 18-wheelers and big rigs and stuff for a living, supporting his five children. And got run over last year, changing a tire, hit and run. Don't know who, just haven't tracked the guy down. And so he's struggling. He's struggling to adapt to a new life. He's not able to work. It causes financial issues, chronic pain issues, putting on weight, all the things. And so as a life strategist, as a coach, I've been fortunate to be able to take him under my wing, bring him here to Dallas to get him some adaptive training. So he's doing some adaptive training right now while we're here. And then tomorrow we're doing a running clinic with an amazing organization called the Challenged Athletes Foundation. And they're doing a mobility clinic here in town to help people with amputations learn to run. And so Ricky's not at a place to be able to run just yet with his situation, but just to be around the community, connect him with other amputees, and start to give him some knowledge. That's what it's all about. So.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing, man. And I think now you're just talking about that. I'm like, okay, man, you still got some work to do with the amputee community. You still got some people to feature on from the amputee community, because like I told you, Dr. Dave, when he was here, it first being a part of the Adaptive Training Foundation, I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky's running right now. They will not take, you ain't running for an answer. They will not. Trust me. You'll be like, I ran today, you know?
They have a puke bucket. I saw yesterday, we got by there. There's our puke
I'm
bucket.
serious too, man. I hadn't ran, I had 2 hip replacements last year and I hadn't ran like in a while. And I started running. The first step I took, I was, I had both of my legs and I tumbled, I swear it was bad. I was on the ground. At first I was like, oh my God, we're starting off on a bad note. We can't go any further from here, But these guys with, one leg and I was like, they were running. Dave was running. I was like, here I am falling. So they didn't take no for an answer. I'm visualizing it for him. Ricky,
Yeah.
we're going to have to get to the ice bath. I got a cold plunge here if you need. But no, that's cool, man. This journey, and he's lucky to have you, friend.
And it's great to. I'm glad I get to travel with him because I mean, right before we get on the airplane, his leg, he's got $100,000 leg. He's above the knee, so he doesn't have a knee joint. Of course, it breaks, so he's hobbling through the airport. We got him in a wheelchair, hobbling through the airport, and so yesterday morning we had to make a last minute appointment to a practitioner here, and they had overnight apart, and they're at the Adaptive Training Foundation right now, putting a new knee on him right now as he's doing this thing today. So there's all these technical things and frustrations, and it's good to have peer support.
Yeah.
And I guess for your audience, you don't have to have lost a limb to know what it's like to need peer support, but whatever it is that you're struggling with, whatever, amputated spirit you might have, find support for what you're going through so you don't have to go through it alone.
Yeah. One of the greatest human contradiction is that knowing better doesn't always mean we're capable of doing better. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Education can give us a language, experience can give us insight. We can even recognize something clearly in a person and remain unable to change within ourselves. When did your own struggles eventually teach you that all your knowledge about counseling, addiction, and recovery couldn't?
Say that last part one more time for me.
What did your own struggles eventually teach you that all your knowledge about counseling, addiction, and recovery couldn't?
That I'm not God, man. Like, that as much as I want to try to control my life and control my situation, my surroundings, it's like, get the freak out of the way. Like, just get out of the way and let God take over, man. So masters in counseling and 5 rehab centers, 3 sober living houses, all that stuff is like, I still had to get enough consequences and get far enough down to realize, like, I don't know what I'm doing here, man. I don't have the answers, dude. And so I guess that's probably what I would say.
Yeah. That's people who don't know that, I know that when you say that, get out of the way, you got to get out of your own way. I had a counselor tell me one time, he said, Rush, if someone calls you a horse, go buy yourself a bag of oats. Because, it's just like saying, you're going to go out there and you're going to do what you're told. And, when you're out there and in the real world, in the world now, you're going to do what you're told, man. Because your way ain't the right way. Yeah.
Here's a great example. It's in a treatment center. The first treatment center I went to, I did step 1. It was this high-end celebrity treatment center. I did step 1 of the 12 steps was took me about an hour to present it to my trauma group, maybe 8 or 10 people in the room, presented about an hour of my questions, step 1. Relapsed after 3 days, after 45 days in this high-end treatment center, ended up in another one, and it was hardcore. And bunch of guys sitting around in a circle. There's a round table in the middle with a counselor on the other side with a rattlesnake in the middle of the table, stuffed rattlesnake looking at you with his fangs open. And step 1 was 70 questions. It took me 12 hours over the course of 3 days to go through each question. And everybody could chime in if they wanted to. And so I'm on step 2, I'm working through step 2, and I'm answering questions. And he's like, he's like, on 37 you said this, and on 38 you said this. What are you lying about? I was like, what? He goes, you've been lying to yourself for so long, you don't even know that you don't even hear yourself doing it. Guys, did y'all hear this? Y'all hear what he's lying about? And they're like, oh yeah, we all hear it. We can tell you're lying. I was like, what? This is my truth. And he's like, he threw his book down. He goes, I'm gonna tell you something nobody out there is gonna tell you. You're a crippled drunk. That's it, dude. Until you can come to the realization that you're just a crippled drunk, you're not gonna make any progress. Get out of here. Go to your room. I was like, oh, you can't talk to me like that. You don't know who I know. Like, I've been in the Playboy Mansion with Adam Sandler. You know, like, I know people. But, you know, sometimes you gotta have somebody just be like, dude, that's where you're at. Like, admit that's where you're at. And so that's one thing when I coach people is go like, where are you really at? Not a washed up, you know, soft version of where you're at. Where are you really at?
Yeah.
And let's start there.
Yeah. How, as a counselor, like, how much courage do you have to like confront somebody like that, like this counselor did with you? Like, you know,
I've gotten better at it. I got soft for a while there where I was just trying to baby everybody's feelings. And now it's like, dude, we don't have time. Like, there's not time to mess around. That's why I needed, you know, Alec, I had needed my friend to sit there and go like, you're not well.
Yeah.
You're not well. You got to make some changes now. And then have that counselor go, this is who you really are. And so to be able to, another example is Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey fired me face to face. I got fired by Dave Ramsey for my untreated mental illness and addiction on the job. I'll just leave it at that. But, you know, I needed somebody like that to go, you're not well, to hold up a mirror and go, you obviously have some issues. I'm going to let you go get the help that you need. And so I take that now when I work with people of like, do you don't have time? Like, make the change. Like, you got to do it now.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, sometimes you got to fast track that shit. You know, fast track that stuff, man. Like, you got to be like, hey, we ain't got no, and your feelings got no place here anymore.
And I'm a licensed counselor, so I'm not a licensed counselor, but I've been through enough where I don't mind telling somebody the truth. Yeah. You know, this is it, buddy. I've been told this and I got better because of it. I'm going to tell you this because I know you have more in you.
Yeah. You know, there's a particular vulnerability that comes with becoming someone other people turn to for help, right? There's a certain significant vulnerability, right, that comes with becoming someone other people turn to for help. The role itself can carry expectations, especially when the subject you're helping navigate, the subject you're helping people navigate is something you've had to navigate yourself. What did you learn about allowing yourself to need help while also being someone other people look for?
That's a great deep question. I'll say the vulnerability. You mentioned the word vulnerability. I'd learned the tough lesson of vulnerability through my brother's death. So, in my program, I talk a lot about becoming unsilent. For people, my brother didn't die of a drug overdose. I found him from a drug overdose, but that's not what killed him. What killed him was his silence. Like, let that set in. Silence kills people. My brother got his MBA from Georgetown University, top of his class, University of Texas Business School. Brilliant guy, performing perfectly in public, perishing in private. His silence killed him. And what I learned from his death, from finding my brother, he'd been deceased for 3 days, alone, isolated in a room in Beverly Hills, is vulnerability. Is what I learned from that experience. Is like, I have to share what's going on because he didn't share what had happened in his life.
Yeah.
And it killed, the silence killed him. And so I have learned to be able to, it's almost like sponsorship and 12-step recovery work. When you become the sponsor, you hear yourself telling yourself what you need to hear. So when I'm coaching somebody, when I'm talking to somebody and they go, hey, then I got this problem, I'm like, you should maybe look at it from this angle or look at it from this angle. And half the time I'm talking to myself. I'm reiterating to myself like, oh, I needed to hear that today. So the more I get to work with people, the more vulnerable I'm willing to be and they're willing to be with me. We all grow in that process together.
Yeah.
So
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
You ever heard a saying is that you have the solutions to everyone else's problems, but you don't have the solutions for yourself. How much of that is true, you think?
Say that again.
Like,
so you have everybody. Yeah.
You have the solution for everyone.
That's where I get coaching. I have coaches in numerous different areas of my life, and I don't have all the answers. And then I had somebody call me on something last week, very heavy, and I didn't know how to respond. I go, let me think about it, and I'll get back to you. I call somebody. I'm like, hey, I got this. Somebody came to me with this problem. I don't know how to answer it. What do you think? You know me. What do you think? So I don't have all the answers, but I kind can reach out and find somebody that does.
Yeah, I think that's the point. It's like, we all have answers. Like you sitting here providing answers for someone else. When someone watches this podcast, they're going to be like, these are the answers I've been looking for. You're providing the answers, and then someone's going to speak to you, and you're going to get some answers that you need. And you're speaking to me right now, and I'm getting some answers I need.
And it goes to communication.
Yeah,
It goes to
yeah.
connection.
Yeah.
We might cover that here in a minute, but
Yeah.
it goes to connection. Connection is the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection.
Mm.
And addiction doesn't have to be a substance. Addiction can be food. It can be silence. It can be addicted to your ego, addicted to your job, so.
How about feelings? Is it addicted to
Yes,
anxiety?
you can be addicted to your story. You can be addicted to the victimization. Dude, I was the victim. Man, you talk to my ex-wife, I was the victim for years.
Yeah.
Just playing the victim story. Well, I found my brother dead. I lost my leg. Of course I can go get pills from a doctor. Yeah, give me some more pain pills. I'm hurting. And I played the victim for so long, and I was addicted to my victim story.
Yeah.
That was hard to break that.
Yeah. How's the relationship with your ex-wife now? Is it
Good, man. We're so fortunate. Live 2 miles from we live 2 miles apart, so I'm active with the kids on a regular basis. We just dropped my son together. We didn't drive together, but we dropped off our son, our oldest, at college last week.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
got to see him off and set his room up and, hug him out and cry together. All of us cry together. And it was a really, really special. Thank you for asking. Yeah.
That's so, man, hearing you say that's so beautiful, man. Just knowing that there's that evolution, like of your relationship has come full circle, connected together, man.
If somebody out there, if you hear this and you're not where you want to be, keep going. When my son was 12 and he looked up at me and told me what a loser I was, basically, to hug him, he got a full ride scholarship to University of Alabama Business Honors Program. He got to move in early, kind of VIP status last week. And when we hugged at his dorm, he didn't let go.
Mm.
Like, he don't let go. And that's like, one of the greatest honors of my life is to be able to be there and show up. And I didn't give up. But I've done all these things we're talking about, been vulnerable and asked for help and surround myself with other guys because I can't do it on my own. It's like I need a prosthetic to get out of bed every morning. I physically have to put on a prosthesis to get out of bed every morning. And before I get out of bed, I also put on my spiritual prosthesis. So without God in my heart, in my life, and in the men that I've surrounded myself with, and women as well that have helped support me, I'm able to show up for those kind of life events now. And it's the greatest feeling, I'm in the treatment centers and I'm like, what am I doing here? Where's my, I moved into a trailer on the banks of a river with a roommate named Beaver. I went from parties at the Playboy Mansion to living in a double wide mold infested trailer to seeing my kid in business honors program and hug him out. Was
That's awesome.
God does redeem if you get out of your way.
Yeah.
Get out of his way.
Yeah. I see that. And I almost when I saw the visual, I was visualizing as you were talking it out. I was like, that's what's up, man. It's like, then when you reach that level of spiritual and emotional maturity, it's just like, things get a little bit, there's not much more decisions you have to make. Do you agree with that?
It's like getting all the money and all the accolades and all the awards and all the stuff and the People magazine features and all that stuff. It's like, just can you be present with your kids?
Yeah.
That's all about, dude. It's like the new currency for me is peace. It's not paper. It's not paper bills. It's like the greatest currency for me is peace of mind.
Yeah. For me too, like I would say, for me, it was like I realized that God's not asking me for anything. He's commanding me to do it. He's commanding me. There's no more ask. Like, Rush, you already did it. I asked you to do this and I asked you to do that and I asked you to be this person and your self-will ran riot.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So like these next 4 chapters, peace, joy, love, and happiness, like if you put 10 years on each one of those, it's like, that's what I command you to chase. Nothing else. Like there ain't no decisions. There ain't no feelings that are going to get in the way of that. There ain't no, this is the direction you're going and that's where you're going to go. And when I started doing this podcasting, that was one of those things. You're going to go through a season of listening. You're going to shut up and listen for a while. So that's what this exercise is.
Powerful.
So God is here with us right now. He ordained it. He ordained it for me to be in a seasonal listening for a long time, I guess, but good, because I definitely needed it, and I think all of, like we listen to, we looking for those opportunities to listen to people, to their advice, and you're reaching out like that with other people to get those tools, essential tools to keep you, and keep you steering the right direction.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, a lot of men. Yeah, I can relate to more. A lot of men just don't ask for help, and I'm supposed to know this. I'm supposed to do this, and I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm doing half the time, man. When I wake up, before I put my leg on, when I'm in prayer, I'm like, please, Lord, help me not screw the day up. Help me get. I'm gonna find every which way to screw the day up. Help me stay out of my own way.
Yeah, that's a good point that you make. You make is we ask for help as though that's the finish line, right? Your story complicates that, right? Because you help was sought. Treatment happened, real efforts have been made, and there's still the setbacks, right? What happens to hope when you're sincerely trying to change and that change doesn't hold?
I got to a point of hopelessness. Like, dude, I was hopeless, because I kept doing it alone. I kept trying to do it alone. Like, even though it was trying, I wanted the treatment center to fix me. I wanted the therapist to fix me. I thought like taking your car to a mechanic, you leave the car at the mechanic and you come back and the car's fixed. Like, I don't know anything about that car.
Yeah.
Like, I just expect the car to get fixed. So I thought if I just entered treatment, I entered a sober living house, like I would just like magically get fixed. One thing is they gave me the tools, but then I wouldn't use the tools on a consistent basis on my own on the outside. And so I finally got to a place of hopelessness, and that's when things start to change. When I was asking for help, but I finally had to do it for me.
Yeah.
And not expects showing up and doing this step work or showing up and doing therapy work wasn't enough. It was a personal relationship that I had to do at home when I wasn't performing. Even in treatment, dude, I was the best guy in treatment. I was the best patient. My first time in treatment, they had family week, they had family days where like my mom and dad came in and my ex-wife comes in, and one of the girls was like, "Oh, you're John's wife? Oh my gosh, he's the greatest. Like, we all love him around here." And she's like, "You have no idea." It's like,
Yeah.
So even though I was asking for help, and I was willing to get help, when I kept getting my own way, man, you get to a point of just complete hopelessness and just, I give up.
Yeah. That's crazy, dude. Like, I think that's so crazy you said that, because you could be like the A+ treatment center patient, right? But it's like, I think that's a red flag for counselors. They're like, oh, this guy, like, he's whacking some poetic crap here right now. He's probably he's intellectualized this stuff, and he's got this down,
Well, so after my first treatment, 45 days in a high-end celebrity treatment in Arizona, I get home and I go to intensive outpatient for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm getting toward the end of intensive outpatient, and they go, do you mind bringing your wife in? I think we need to have a conversation. I was like, I'm graduating early. I'm only 4 weeks in. I'm graduating early. Look at this. And they come in, the two counselors, and my ex-wife and I are sitting there, and they're like, we think he needs more treatment. And she was like, what are you talking about? I just spent 45 days with 2 children, nursing our second child. I'm home alone while he's off, getting massages and playing pool volleyball. And he needs more treatment. And they're like, yeah, it's not really, he's not sticking,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're like, man, I did so good. Everybody loved me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Hollywood,
right? They call you Hollywood. Did you have a nickname?
no. Yeah, no, it's take the mask off, guys. If you're out there, I guess the moral of the story is take your freaking mask off. Like, just take it off.
Yeah.
Whatever mask you're wearing right now, take it off, and let one person just see who's what's really going on. Don't be silent anymore.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and there's something going on in your life right now, today's the day that you don't have to be silent about it.
That's true, man. The mask gets heavy after, so many years. You're like, the stuff you're not supposed to be carrying, you're still carrying it,
Mm-hmm.
There's one moment in your story that feels different from everything that came before it. Your friend says everybody loves a comeback story, and everything you've already come back from. Your answer was, I don't have another one. I don't have another one in me. What had you finally reached? What had you finally reached the end of?
I kept trying to create my own comeback stories, and I wasn't following the greatest comeback story ever told. And that's Jesus Christ coming back. Like, I created my own comeback from my car accident. I walked 6 weeks after my amputation on a temporary prosthetic to get my diploma from undergrad. I go to graduate school, I get my master's in counseling. I go to LA, I do the thing. I invent a sock that helps people around the world. Worked for Dave Ramsey, worked for treatment centers. I hosted a podcast on addiction. I had 3 of the members of the band Korn on my show. I've a guy from 3 Doors Down. I had Lindsay Lohan's dad. I had like all these people on my show.
Wow.
Speaking on addiction panels across the country, doing all that stuff, and comeback after comeback after comeback. And it was all on my own power. It was all like, look at me. It was all ego driven. And when I finally went out, and my buddy was like, dude, like, everybody loves a comeback story. And I was like, I'm trying to do it on my own. I need to follow the greatest comeback story ever told, and that's Jesus Christ coming back. Let me try that. Let me try that route out again.
Yeah.
And here I am today by the grace of God.
Amen. Yeah, it is by the grace of God, right? We're both here. All of us are here, right? Like, it's like, he says, man, I'm going to take that disaster. I'm going to make it something beautiful, and I'm going to let everybody see the kind of work I've done with this person, and it's beautiful, man. I'm glad you're here. And I can say, recently I'm an executive volunteer for TDCJ, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So I went to the prison last week, and there was this guy, and it's an entrepreneurship program that they have at TDCJ, and I'm an executive volunteer for that, and there was an inmate there that really wanted to meet me, and he's like, he's amazing guy, great energy, like that high, you just had that high level energy, and you're like, I'm like, okay, man, like, and he's like, they made a special arrangement for us to meet, and he goes, man, I want to become a podcaster. I want to be this amazing podcaster. I have a story to say. I have a story to give. And he goes, so what's the secret? I said, man, it ain't the talking that's going to save you. It's the listening. And he was shocked because he had this whole powerful, like, I can't, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to grab this microphone and I'm going to give it. I'm going to wax my knowledge about me being incarcerated. And I was like, dude, it's not the talking, it's the listening. If you want to be an amazing podcaster, you have to learn how to listen. And he was shocked, and he really
needed to hear that.
Yeah, man, his person, he got quiet, like, real quick. But I said, let me tell you, when you get out of here, you're still going to be in rehabilitation. You know that? You're still in recovery. You're getting out, you're being incarcerated. You still got a whole life to rebuild. You're starting over. But you need to go, and you need to just, if you want to be a podcaster, then you need to be able to listen, and he was shocked that I told him that. But his story was so impactful, dude, because I just when I walked away, I didn't know his story. But he got up in front of, he had something to say, like this, a whole big thing. They brought 3 people up on front, and his story was that his family left Syria, and 10 years ago to come to America because they were being bombed and being attacked, and so he leaves and he falls into the drug culture in America, and his life goes a different path. But I didn't know that at the time. I would have known that. I would have probably had a little different conversation with him. But I think he has a beautiful story to tell. But how much of that story, like now you said you were a podcaster, right? Like, and that's why, because we have some common thread. Now you're sitting here in my podcast studio. But how much of that story do you go, look, I need to be, how much of that is, say, not the talking, it's the listening that makes you a great podcaster. What you had people on your podcast, right? How much of that you think is true?
Yeah, absolutely. And look at like Joe, I like Joe Rogan. I appreciate the various range of guests that he has on there. But he hears an answer and then he asks the next question underneath that. It's kind of like, okay, I hear you. What about this? And so to be able to even to get continue to get beneath the surface. You got to kind of read between the lines, and a lot of that is just shutting up and listening.
Yeah, man. That's if you're are you gonna do a podcast again? You think? Would you take a different approach?
My
For your times?
coaching team tells me I'm supposed to, and I'm refusing to do it, and I'm kind of reworking my keynote speech right now. I got about 10 weeks before I'm presenting that in front of a group of my peers. So it's, again, people performing perfectly in public and perishing in private is the new thing. And so they're telling me, yeah, I'm supposed to be doing a podcast, and I'm like, I don't want to be. So I told my strategist, my coach the other day, I was like, I don't want to be like a Mel Robbins. I don't want to be a Lewis Howes. I don't want to be one of these, big podcasters. And he's like, I'm gonna give you some pushback. He's like, don't say you're not going to do that, because you could be really good at it. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. The production on this stuff, dude, I give you credit, man. This is not an easy job. This is not an easy job by any means. So I give you credit for it. And part of it is I don't want to put all the work that you put. I appreciate being on other people's podcasts, because I don't have to do all the small, minute stuff. But yeah, my guys are saying I'm gonna have to do it one day. So we'll see. Again, this is part of my continued evolution, John.
Yeah.
Get out of my way. Am I worried about the work that I don't want to do, or the tediousness of the marketing and the posting everywhere and all that stuff? Hey, maybe if I just get out of my own way, and I'm hearing myself say this out loud. This is a therapy session for me. Is if I get out of my own way, God can put the people in place, and I just shut up and get out of the way. And so, and I have people on the outside telling me, like, dude, you need to be doing it. And I'm like, no. But
that's why I say it's so therapeutic. This is part of my that's why I start off saying this is part of my rehabilitation journey, because I and this is something I would say too, is like you said, they call you a horse, go buy yourself a bag of oats. So they say they call you a podcaster, go buy a microphone.
they see what I can't see myself, right?
Yeah. I would say, like, for me, when I started podcasting, it was like God was saying, he's like, you're going to go back home from California. I was living in California, and Laguna Beach, California, a beautiful area, but I'm from Texas. And I said, you can go back home, you're going to meet your wife, you're going to go to school, you get your film degree, and you're going to become a podcaster. You're going to shut up and listen. You're going to ask questions, and you're just going to listen. But one of the things was, for me, it was like, I did not want to be part of the veteran community at all. I had so much built up frustration with the military, because my journey and the things that came from that. And so I did not want to be that, but God kept saying, you're going to go start a podcast for veterans, and you're going to sit down, and you're going to get in front of veterans, and you're going to ask them questions. And I've learned to use this as part of my rehabilitation project, not project, but part of my rehabilitation, and the 3 podcasts I host are this one, The Rush Perspective, I'm Mastering the Art of Living. It just so happened to be things that I really need to master. My Mastering the Art of Living, The Unfinished Business, a podcast for veterans pursuing new life missions, which is what it's part of this, and then the other one's Next Level Thinkers of Charting New Horizons of Brilliance, because I want to get smarter than I, but it does come down to, like, saying, create a podcast of something that you need in your life, and go down that road. Not what other people need, but what you need, because that's where you're going to be magnificent.
Yeah, it's like we're most uniquely able to serve the person that we used to be.
Yeah.
So as we continue to grow and develop, it's put yourself in like for you, I see, like, resentment. Maybe you had resentment comes up with the military.
Yeah.
And 12-step recovery, resentment's the number one offender.
Yeah.
So if you're carrying that resentment, God, they just like, you're going to go ask other people about the military. About veterans. You're like, I don't want to talk about this stuff. I resent it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe this is part of your process.
Yeah, I just had a Navy SEAL mom, a Gold Star mom, come have on my podcast, and you sit down. I had 2 Gold Star moms in one week, and it was just like pretty heavy, to sit down and break the conversations down and have conversations about the son they lost in action, and you go, and then you reach another level of that evolutionary zone of going, now you're this advocate for veterans now, and when I say now I want to be an advocate for those with limb loss, and what those obstacles we have to overcome, and especially in the treatment stuff. So I'm gonna circle back on that with you for sure.
All right.
Let's see here. Let's see. Faith is interesting in your story, because Christianity wasn't something you discovered for the first time at the bottom. It had been part of your life much earlier, and yet the way you describe Christ has a different weight to it. Yet today, the way you describe Christ has a different way to it. When did faith move from something you knew to something you had to depend on?
That would be, as I've previously described, after my last big relapse, and my buddy telling me that wasn't going to be around much longer if I didn't make changes. And so going again, crawling back to church, crawling back to Celebrate Recovery. If you've seen any of my social media posts, I was 55, 60 pounds heavier. Don't even look like the same person. I was just a shell of myself, and I was just completely overweight and miserable. And so, yeah, I grew up in the church, baptized by my grandpa when I was 11, and like I described before, but it was really like, there was no relationship. It was religion, but there wasn't a relationship. And so the Christ-centered 12-step group of Celebrate Recovery helped flesh that out for me. And so the physical changes that have happened to my body are really a direct result of the internal changes God did by building relationship, first and foremost.
That's beautiful. My friend has a book called Theology of Fitness, and he talks about faith and fitness. They're not. They say they belong together.
Man, that's a great. So when I'm working out these days, a lot of times, it's a form of worship for me. It's a form of meditation. So when I doing a hard set and I get done with that hard set, when I put the weight down, a lot of times I go into breathing, right? And, I get my nervous system, my blood pressure, everything's hyped up. And then I immediately start bringing myself back down. I go into my body, breathe, calm myself down in the middle of a set. So then on the outside in the real world, when I'm nervous on a podcast like this, I can go into my breath and be like, I've been through a lot worse.
Yeah.
But I use working out as a fitness and faith that's spot on. Yeah, it is a form of meditation for me, and a form of God, how can you use my body and my mind to move your kingdom forward? And so help me push further through this set than I think I can push with your strength. So yeah.
Well, shout out to D'Angelo Lee for that book that he wrote in prison.
Great essay.
That he wrote when he was incarcerated. That's even a whole thing on its own. What's your favorite? I know you talk a lot of your relationship with Christ. What's your favorite scripture?
Oh gosh, I would probably just go back to. I need basic stuff.
Yeah.
I don't want to make things complicated, but for God so loved the world, He gave His only begotten Son, that whoever believes in Him should not perish but have eternal life. Basically, going back to I just need to start with a shower.
Yeah.
I just need to start with the basics, man.
Hey, that's all you need to remember.
Yeah.
Remember where you came from. Remember where what God had already proclaimed over your life from the day you were born. And He had this. This
is already pre-planned. I just had to get out of my own way and continue to get out of my own way if He's going to continue to use me, right? So progress.
Do you think you they say redeemed, delivered, and then the last one's anointed, right? What stage do you think you are in that?
Redeemed,
delivered, anointed.
Definitely been redeemed. Definitely been delivered. And I want to say I'm anointed, but there's like a hesitation there. It's almost like, do I deserve it? I can't. I had somebody tell me the other day, he said, I'm in it for 15 minutes. And he goes, John, I don't think you know how powerful you are. And I was like, what are you talking about? He goes, John, you're more powerful than you realized. And I want to say there may be an anointed part of me there, but I'm scared because I'm like, oh no, I don't do it. But I'm showing up. I'm showing up as I am today, as best I can today. And whatever that means is whatever God has for me today. So I don't need to try to be something I'm not, but
that's
where I'm at today.
I'm gonna call you a horse, man. You're a horse. You're anointed. You're anointed 100%. You're anointed. And that's a given, Now how we revolve around that, right? Like for me, I had to learn that too. I had to learn this podcast is I'm anointed to be a podcast, to create a conversation architect. It's like create these dialogues and really sit down and be a listening leader and say, okay, you're anointed to put people on a platform to push them, on the hill and where the light shines bright, and other ways too, and now he's saying you're in the studio, right? He's saying you're in the studio. When you gonna get up on front of that stage, and learn? And that's the thing too, man. This whole podcast experience for me is like learn people's stories so you can tell your own. Like learn how to learn, like you're telling your story. I learn and say, okay, like give me that wisdom on how to articulate myself, and give me that wisdom how to carry myself in a responsible and respectable way, and don't let anything else get in the way from what God's majesty has for you.
It's like the teacher becomes the student.
Yeah, it's like yeah, man.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. One word seems to keep surfacing in the way you talk about life now. Connection. You said that word would come up. It is connection to God, connection to ourselves, to other people, to purpose. And its opposite, disconnection, can happen quietly even while life looks perfectly functional from the outside. What have you come to understand about the relationship between silence and connection?
Just had this conversation with a friend at dinner last night, how he had a group of friends for 20 years. They see each other almost weekly, over the decades. And nobody ever talked about anything real. They talk about the Cowboys, they talk about their jobs, they talk about their family, but they didn't talk about real stuff. And when my friend went through a divorce, he was the first person in the friend group to like have something major come out. And he was like, sure enough, when that came out, this friend started saying this, and this friend started saying this. He was like, we've had this friend group, but it's been surface level all these years. And so now they're more deep, and now they have like a Bible. Now they do like a men's Bible study on Zoom. And he's friends with an Olympian who's in this group, who's now all of a sudden becoming more vulnerable. I mean, this guy's a 3-time Olympian, and he's in this men's group that's like becoming vulnerable and talking about God more. And it's because of the vulnerability and the connection.
Yeah.
But when I sit in silence, I'm freaking isolated. I'm miserable. I'm scared. I'm in fear. I'm anxious. But as soon as you say it out loud to just one person, or say it out loud in a prayer to God, say what's going on underneath the surface of your life, say it out loud. It's connection. I mean, silence kills.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, that's heavy, dude. I mean, from a veteran standpoint,
you don't want to talk about your stuff.
Yeah.
I felt a lot of details of my recovery journey away from my kids, because it's like, but I was able to talk to my son just went to college last week recently about some of the more gritty details of kind of what I've been through. And I think it creates a deeper connection when I was like, hey dude, here's what I really went through. I'm shameful to even say this, but here's some of the stuff that I, dealt with, and tell him the story about how I was called a crippled drunk. And it's like, man, I've had to be humbled, dude, over and over and over again, but it's made me who I am today, and where I'm able to sit here in front of you today. And, speaking creates connection. And, my life is more full than it's ever been before, because I'm more connected and I'm less silent than I've ever been. So there's a direct correlation. I'm finding a direct correlation.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Like, I think that is beautiful. You're right, man. I think, silent connection is so important, and that's what I think that's part of the premise of this too. It's like saying, hey, connect, like get those people in front of you need to have to listen to what they have to share. And then in the process, other people are listening. There's 3 of us in this room, right? There's all we need is one more person in here, like the person who watches this podcast. So that's the person we need to touch, right?
And then,
let's see here. I'm getting ready. Got a couple more questions. Well, one of the things when I was reading your thing was a term that you used that was really powerful to me, man. I was like, I don't know, it was just so powerful. It's called the amputated spirit.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, physical amputation gives the idea that gives that idea a very literal origin, right? But the metaphor reaches much. It's like it goes a lot further up. Eventually, almost everybody loses something that isn't coming back. How do we become whole without requiring life to give us back what we've lost?
Connection.
Yeah.
So I get reconnected every day. I reconnect myself with something, something outside of myself. I rely on something outside of myself to complete me. And so this is like a physical representation of that. But what I found is I need, there's something inside of me that's completed me all along that I don't have to put on, that I don't have to have a prosthesis for. It's Jesus Christ already there. Like it's already, everything I need is right here.
Yeah.
And, so I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, it makes sense, brother. It's the breast, it's the armor of Christ,
yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've all had something severed and cut off, and we've been cut off from something or some situation in our lives, but it's, really, you don't need something to fix you from the outside. You already have what you need on the inside if you tap into it.
Yeah. John, we've talked a lot, asked a lot of questions. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on and where people can get a hold of you and all that stuff. We'll wrap up with this last question.
All right. So yes, I'm currently working with kind of highly influential people who are struggling, who are performing perfectly in public and perishing in private. So I've got working with clients for that. Have a couple spots open for that. Also, revamping my keynote speech. So we'll be out on the road doing more of those here before too long. Been able to take a step back and work on some things. But if anybody is looking for a speaker, I am available to do kind of a little bit of a old song and dance, but I got new stuff coming out. So be ready for that. And then, John Mabry, John Mabry Connects, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. So, and johnmabryconnects.com.
Is there a question that you would want me to ask you that I didn't ask?
Dude. Putting me in the podcaster seat.
Yeah.
Podcaster seat.
Yeah.
Silly prosthetic question comes to mind. Like, how much does prosthetic cost? Let's start with that. It's just a simple question, but a lot of people don't understand. This is a $30,000 leg. So mine's $30,000, but Buddy Ricky's that broke yesterday is $100,000. This kind of goes to your point of like, a lot of people don't understand how expensive these are and how tough these are. So if you were to ask, like, dude, how much does that leg cost? I'd be like, this is a $30,000 leg, and it's not fitting great, and I need to get cast for a new one. This socket area needs to be recast because I've lost weight, and I have to, again, document enough amount of pain over a long enough period for insurance to say, yeah, we'll grant him, the great Oz. Who are these insurance people that are making these decisions behind the curtain?
Yeah.
And we have to rely on patience and God's timing to be able to sit back and go, I'm going to suffer through some pain until I can get a new prosthetic covered, but they're very, very expensive. And then in terms of sports, that's where people like the Adaptive Training Foundation and Challenge Athletes Foundation that we talked about earlier come in. A lot of times people with disabilities, it's not that they don't have the drive or the will or the ability to succeed in sport or an active lifestyle, but they don't have the funding.
Yeah.
And so if anybody out there is looking to support Adaptive Training Foundation or Challenge Athletes Foundation, support prosthetics and equipment for people with disabilities.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That is a good question, but I think just the more information we put out there in the podcast world, like, having more conversations about those that have to deal with the obstacles, the physical, the medical necessities of trying to navigate through the bureaucracy of all that,
like a running leg's not a medical necessity.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like, no, it is. Like for my mental health and my well-being and my physical health, it's like, are you saying running shoes aren't a necessity for the average person?
Yeah.
Like,
that's
like, it's like,
wow.
This is like wearing a boot all day long. I can run in boots.
Yeah.
You can run in boots, but it's clunky, it's heavy, it causes more blistering. But if I had a running shoe, I could be more active. I could be mentally better, physically better, more present for my children. And so like a simple running leg that's not a medical necessity. So you got to find a way to pay for that. And that's where it's
that's
challenging.
Yeah, that's true. The goal is to get as closest to your other leg as possible, right? Like just to get it, just have that that whole thing complete, so you feel
like a full person again.
Yeah.
And we're at the mercy of the insurance company so much. It's challenging.
I'm gonna look some more into that, man, because when I had Dr. David, it was like, wow, I didn't think about those kind of things. He shed some light on it, and I think a whole conversation about that. I've been told Dr. Davidson, man, join some amputee groups and get in, like, just maybe you should, be the one, to get that thing started with, have a bigger voice. He's a very smart guy. Last question. Maybe one of the evolutions of your story is that life stopped being entirely about the next comeback. There comes a point when surviving, rebuilding, achieving, and even recovery have to give way to the larger question of how we actually want to live. After everything life has taught you, what does mastering the art of living mean to you today?
Does mastering the art of living mean to me today? Using the voice that I have and the knowledge and experiences that I have and the skills to bring up the next person. Whether it's an amputee, whether it's somebody struggling with addiction, struggling with trauma, going through trauma, somebody who has succeeded, or the CEO of their company and they're doing everything perfect and they have the house and they have the kids, is to bring up the next person.
Yeah.
Which is kind of why I have somebody in the studio today, to bring up another person who can hopefully be sitting in this seat, so that my voice isn't the only one being heard, but that the next voice gets to be heard as well. So that's mastering the art of living is what we're doing here today.
Yeah. And I'll say this. I'll say this. I had a NFL lineman come on my podcast. This podcast specifically, and he had injury. He had an injury, and we talked about he got it. He was during COVID era. He was a Dallas Cowboy, and he got injured. And then when COVID hit, he had all these scouts that were going to come see him, to recruit him to play. And then COVID hit, so they shut down the NFL, right? And we sat on my podcast and we talked. I'm gonna ask questions, like I do. I think the most important part, he got out what he needed to get out of himself. That was really debilitating his mindset during that podcast. With the, he got NFL shut down. His career went down. That was the end of his career because of COVID stuff. They shut it all down, and he never got looked at to see if he was ready to play again.
Yeah.
And he had all these recruiters already, NFL recruiters to come see him, but scouts, and he shut down his career. But when he sat down, man, that guy sat down and he let that stuff go. And that guy took off like a rocket ship. He just went, I was like, man, he started speaking everywhere. I was like, dude, how do you go? No, man, it was your podcast, man. Like something happened, I said just, I got to, do some work, get into myself. I felt like I was getting stuck on being stuck,
Yeah, yeah.
And it was a good conversation. So I think talking on the podcast is sharing your testimony, sharing the hills you have to climb is so important. And I look forward to it. I think you already have a seat here already. The seat's going to be filled with you, for sure. And we're gonna get that working. Okay. Promise you that. And we're going to make it impactful and meaningful, because we're both going to save some lives in that process. Okay. And man, I guarantee you that. But, John, it's a pleasure to have you on the Rush Perspective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. You are anointed. You reached a standard of excellence, and now you're going to use it you're using it in a more wise way, and a more, therapeutic, in a, more, spiritual way. And I think with God centered in your life, it's that's where you're at. And that's just heir apparent. I just say that, man.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's a pleasure to have you on the podcast, brother.
Honor to be here. Thank you.
Awesome.
God bless you.
All right, guys, that's it for the Rush Perspective, a Mastering the Art of Living podcast. As I always say, have peace and light in you. And remember that the ocean refuses no river.